on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Every other Friday, we do our innovation. That's the innovative series. This is where we find solutions to some of the present problems that we face in Liberia. Tonight, we're going to talk about our classroom. That is from K1 all the way to 12th grade. How do we innovate the classroom so that we can have better learning outcomes, also better teaching outcomes? To discuss this, I have with me some Liberian-born educators, starting with Mr. Cesar Goya. Mr. Goya, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Appreciate you, Mr. John. Thank you for having me on.
Next, joining us for the first time on Focus on Liberia is Mrs. Roberta Bombo Coleman. Roberta, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you for having me.
Roberta is native to us here in Atlanta, Georgia. She has recently moved out to continue teaching. She's a teacher, just like Mr. Zizi Goya. Roberta is a wife, a mother of two. She has a bachelor in psychology and a master's in elementary reading and literacy. She also holds a teaching certificate in special education, elementary education, and ESOL. She has over 25 years of teaching experience. She's currently teaching 3rd grade in North Carolina. That's North Carolina, bordering Atlanta, Georgia. Once again, Roberta, we are glad to have you.
Thank you.
I want to also mention that Roberta worked with the community here in Georgia, that's Lama, when we were in leadership. Roberta, why don't you talk a little bit about that, and also
when I was here, as I said, I was in Atlanta for 18 years, had the opportunity or was asked to work on a committee with other Liberians that really had a passion for our young children. And through the Lama organization, we were able to do different a test, end of grade testing prep for students in our local area. It was Saturday, a bunch of Liberians, like I said, that was on there, Tunde, Albert Coleman, Tanisha Ross, were all here, and we worked together with the Lama organization to try to provide those type of services for our students so that they can do well on their end of grade assessment. Outside of that, I've also done test prep for the Georgia milestone, as they said, for the community at large here in Atlanta. I did it for 4 years while I was here, and I'm hoping that others would pick up their baton and keep on, running for not only our Liberian children, but for all children as a whole.
thank you, Roberta. And you move out of here, you are still continuing teaching. Before I come to Mr. Goya to talk a little about himself, let's talk about your teaching career here in America. You look so young, and you have 25 years teaching experience here.
Yeah, well, I am 48, heading to be 49, but I thank God for the good African genes and good Tobagi. I think I'm very grateful. Teaching was not what I per se wanted to go into, but I believe God called me to. And it was a blessing. Starting in a preschool arena, I did that for 2 years, and then I went into the middle school. I went to middle school experience, and I did that for 4 years, and working with special education, which were pretty much children with learning disabilities. And so it was out of that passion of wanting to see them succeed when people say they couldn't learn, when people say what they could or could not do, and just having the mindset of wanting to say, hey, this is not who these children are. Their current situation does not define who they are. And so that kind of, was the drive behind me wanting to go into education, was to, disprove the narrative of what people believe about children with learning disability or children with disability as a whole. And so I did that in North Carolina for about 5 years, and then I relocated to Georgia and was here about 18 years. And so in that mindset, when I came here, I did that for a while, and then I moved into the regular ed classroom. You could say that people saw my gift in different areas, and my love and passion that I have for all children, especially children who are in Title I school, or and so that passion and the need to what I would like to see happen in my own country has kept me in the field for over 25 plus years, because I enjoy it. I enjoy working with children and seeing them, grow as learners, and also, see them overcome a whole lot of things. That society, pretty much look at a particular group of children and have counted them out. So that is my drive, and my hope is, the success that I've had here, I will continue to work in that so that I can return back home and also make a difference in my own country, help with the educational system. One of my favorite quotes, when I first started teaching, one of my coworkers gave me this quote. He said, "Roberta, I feel like this defines you." And it's one that I've always used, and it's by James Baldwin, that said, "For these are all of our children, and we'll all either profit by or pay for whatever they become." And I've always used that as my guide when it comes to children, that they are, we are responsible for all children. And, we will all either profit by or pay for whatever they become. And it's so, I say, not only that for the United States, but as well as our own home country in Liberia. I'm currently in Charlotte. I was recruited to come to Charlotte to work with their STAR teacher program, which I work with schools that are considered failing schools, so they look for educators who have been proven or gotten results in their field, and they bring them in to kind of help those schools. So that's what I'm currently doing. I'm working in Charlotte with some phenomenal educators, trying to make a difference, so that's all I can say for right now.
Wow, wow. All I can say is wow. Congratulations and thank you for what you do. I was here in Georgia, and I saw what you did with the kids here, and I can't even be more proud of you. Mr. Goya, this is probably your third time on Focus on Liberia. Just briefly tell us what you do in the school system there. I know you also dabble in politics, but just on the education side for today.
This is a hard act to follow. Wow, my sister, I am in awe. Thank you, man. Well, so Mr. Jai, you know me, you ran my campaign before, so you taught me a few things. When I have the stage, I have to shoot my shot, so let me shoot my political shot first. I'm running for city council in Brooklyn Center 2020. So now that we got that passed, let's talk education. Well, I'm a high school math teacher. I teach 11th grade and 12th grade, Algebra 2, pre-calculus, and calculus. I have backgrounds, undergraduate backgrounds in mathematics and electrical engineering, and graduate backgrounds in mathematics and education. So I've worked for a long time in public school. That's where I found my passion. I teach at a Brooklyn Center High School. It's a very diverse school. It's 89% at least free and reduced lunch. About maybe 80%, 85% students of color. And so, when Bob Marley said the concrete jungle, that's where we find ourselves. And I love it. I actually volunteer for that. I sit on a lot of boards at a lot of tables because I've come to realize that if we are not at the table, we become talked about at the table instead of being the one talking at the table. So here in Minnesota, at Education Minnesota, which is the teachers union, I sit on various tables at their union. Also here in Minnesota, I sit on the board of teacher licensing, because we're trying to ensure that the tests that teachers take are not biased, implicitly biased against us immigrants or against people of color. So we've been working to fix those. I also work as an item reviewer and a sampler for SAT. So we wrote the math portion of the current SAT. And also the IQ+, which is the college entrance exam that kids take. We had a big hand in rewriting the math portion of that. I, almost like my sister, found myself in the classroom because of a selfish reason. Like I said, I have a background in electrical engineering. But when I tutor in my community, I started to tutor one kid and then 2 kids and then 3 kids and then 4 kids. And eventually it became almost a lot of kids. And I started to see this disconnect that teachers weren't able to reach kids who are from Africa or who are immigrants or who are poor. Mm-hmm. And I kept complaining. And finally one day I decided it was enough complaining already. I left my job in corporate America as an electrical engineer. I went back to school. I got a teaching license, and I love it. It doesn't pay financially as well as electrical engineering, but man, the human value that I've added to my life is immense. And so I'm doing this also with a sight on how can I be able to export what I've learned or what I do in this country. I participate in curriculum writing and all the other pieces. How can I take that back home? Because I always tell people when I went for my visa at the U.S. Embassy, there were people ahead of me that have been denied visa. There were people after me that were denied visa. I didn't get visa because of anything great that I had done. I think I was blessed by God to be a blessing to other people. Yes. And so because of that, I found myself on these shores. And so whatever I have been blessed with, I always look at giving back to my community. Hence the reason I teach in a very poor school district, but also to give back to Liberia, where I was born.
Beautiful. Oh yeah. No.
All right, thank you so much for coming. Tonight our topic is innovating the classroom for better teaching and learning outcomes. I know that's a long topic that we can take off for the rest of the year, but let's break it down in a manageable way. And if that's possible, we can continue another time. Let's start with, I put at the end there we have better teaching and learning outcomes. I want us to drill down on that before we even come back. What are some of the better learning and teaching outcomes that we look for or that you look for in the school system? What are those outcomes so that our viewers get to know what we're talking about here? Let me start with you, Sisi.
Well, unfortunately, this outcome is tied into a lot of testing and a lot of politics, whether we like it or not. I have my own views on that. But we measure outcome by testing a lot. Here in Minnesota, we have the Minnesota Comprehensive Exam, which is the MCA, and then we look at graduation rates and of schools and school districts in the state. And then some places look at ACT and SAT. For me as a teacher, and particularly as an immigrant teacher, for me, I measure outcome in a different way. Look, better teaching for me just comes down to relationship. Mm-hmm. I really don't care what you know, Mr. Ja, unless I know that you care about me. Yeah. That is the fundamental basics of education. In my classroom, you already know me. I'm short, I'm bald-headed, I'm gap. All of my kids will rub my hair for good luck because that's the relationship we build. Mr. G, can I rub your hair? I need good luck. I'm going to take my test. That's the relationship we build. So that when I raise my hand in the corridor and you see kids running coming to math class, because they value that there is teaching taking place in my classroom. Mm-hmm. So teaching is an act and it's a science, but it's based heavily on customer relationship, customer service. Students ask the customer. That's how I treat my classroom. If you come to my classroom, I dance Liberian dance. The kids will see the Lufakande flag is huge in the back of my classroom. I walk around with my cowtail in my room. When I raise it, the kids know what it means. I have told them that chiefs in Africa hold those things. So when I teach math, I teach with a storytelling because I'm from Lofa County. And the way we teach stuff in Lofa is by storytelling. That's how I teach. I teach mathematics with stories. And I'm teaching critical math, algebra 2, pre-calculus, and calculus. but I'm teaching it with a flair of who I am, my Africanness coming out, and validating those students who are not Africans, but validating their cultures.
Mhm.
Talking about what their cultures have brought to mathematics. For example, talking about the Mayans and the Aztecs, what their contributions were to mathematics. Talking about the pyramids in Egypt, and talking about what that means to mathematics. Talking about Timbuktu in ancient Mali, and the cradle of civilization and what that brought to mathematics. So for me, that's how I look at teaching. Learning now has to be where you meet the kids. I have just real quick, I have the school bus mentality in learning. When the school bus picks the kids up to go to school, it picks them up at their stops, where they live. Mm-hmm. So when I go to teach my students, when my students come to my classroom, I meet them where they are. If you're at the second grade level, at the third grade level, at the 10th grade level, I meet you where you're at, and we all move together. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's how I look at teaching and learning. Teaching is heavily on me and also on the students, but learning is also on the student and it's on me, because as an educator, I have to always know that I learn from my students.
Thank you. Roberta.
Well, I kind of, fall heavily on what my brother was saying. When you look at education, I remember, the first time, coming to a classroom teaching us, teaching, these are children that society has said, they will never amount to anything. They have behavior issues, they have mental issues, and everything that they were saying about these children. And I came in with knowing that I was called to do this, and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to reach? And I remember my first year teaching when a student told me, you're the only positive thing I have to look forward to in every day of my life. And as an educator, I'm like, wow, So that mindset, just put me in the mind that every day I come in class, number one, I have to be there. You have to be there. It's not just to me. I don't see it as a job where I come to collect a paycheck. I see it as a calling, and it's a ministry for me. So when I go there, I don't go there with the mindset, oh, I'm just here to clock out 8 to 5. I'm there for those kids. I'm there to, like my brother said, meet them where they are. And you have to have, like he said, when people judge you now about how your student perform, but when they look at how schools are judged and how you can say, oh yeah, my school is a failing school, not necessarily. You may have some great teachers in that school. You may have some kids who can outperform kids in some of the top schools. However, because of their high transient, rate or the dropout rate, this school might receive a lower grading, but really it's not what's happening. But because they have, judged that particular neighborhood or that particular school, people think, oh no, there's a bad school. No, not necessarily. It's not a bad school. You got to go inside to see what's happening. And like he said, these kids are tested out. It's a test for everything, and they measure teacher performance on how the kids do on these tests. But some of these tests are biased. We know that. And so therefore, when these kids take the test and they see that they're not performing, what are these teachers going to do? Oh, I don't want to see this as a reflection on me, so I'm going to go to a non-title school or go to a school in a different neighborhood. And so what happens to these kids, that we're left behind? I tell people you have to take a temperature of your classroom every morning. When those kids walk in, you have to know, okay, how was your day today? How you feeling today? What's going on? Because if a child, oh, I didn't sleep last night. Well, why didn't you sleep? Oh, they begin to tell you stories, and you're like, wow, that child may not have eaten yesterday. So, so as a teacher, you have to meet them where they are. Ministry, and I always use this thing. Jesus never ministered to anyone until he met their need. So we cannot teach these children until we meet their basic needs that they have right then and there. Because if you're able to address those issues, some kids are homeless. Some kids, come from a single parent home. Some kids need glasses. They don't have the glasses that they need. There's so many things that happen, in these kids' life. And if we don't address those issues and try to help them overcome some of these obstacles, then we have a barrier that's keeping them from learning. Being a special educator, you learn that kids have different learning styles. Some kids are kinesthetic. They learn by moving. You know, some kids are visual learners. They have to see it. You know, some kids are an auditory learner. They can hear it and they get it. But there's so many different types of learning styles that kids have, and you as a teacher will have to match your teaching style to their learning style in order for them to be successful. You know, so I see the same thing as, you know, when we think about what's happening here in the education system. You know, when we look at Liberia, it's the same thing. You know, some people are there and it's not their calling. They don't have the passion to do it, but it's just a job. They're just there to collect a paycheck. That's just it. You know, and you have people that are not as qualified, you know, to teach the kids. But again, they need a one body in the room. So, you know, they don't really, I just need someone in there. And that we see the same thing happening in Liberia. They're not qualified, you know, but it's someone in the room of one body there to teach the kids. So the same problems that you see in Liberia, we still see those same problems here, except that, you know, America, you know, they have the resources and the means. They can, you know, they have the money. So we're going to throw this money behind this school, or, you know, some people will give. And sometimes, you know, they say it's fair education, but really it's not really fair, especially for some of us that teach in school. I mean, my current school is, you know, 100% free lunch. Every child in that school that attends that school have a free lunch. Is 91% African American, you know. But most people are looking like, why would you go to a school like that? I'm like, why not? Why not? They're all children. All children want to learn. Yeah, you cannot meet a child, you know, say every child wants to learn. Now, the manner in which they learn is up to the teacher. Like my brother said, I'm loving the experience of how he ties his culture in and storytelling. I say it must be a Lofa thing, because, you know, that familiar time, they're like, you have a story for everything, you know. But that's how these kids learn. You know, they have to make some kind of connection to what you say. You know, it's like, how can your life and your story, you know, I tell them, you know, my story of when I came to this country, you know, in school, the way I was, you know, some of the things I had to deal with, because when we first came here in 1981, they were not as accepting as Africans. I mean, we went through everything, being picked on, name calling, and coming home sometimes crying because you're not accepted by the African American kids at school, because they say you're African, and then you have no form of racism and everything like that. But I thank God that, you know, some of us stood the test and we were able to overcome some of those obstacles. And now we are on the other side to kind of help our children adjust when they come to this country.
Thank you, Roberta. Oh, wow. Now, that brings us to Liberia. You know, the big question here is, what do we do? I think we all know from the stories, we have people in Liberia we sometimes visit, and we see that the schools are probably not doing that well. It can be recalled that President Sirleaf, 2 or 3 years ago, about 4 years ago, referred to the school system as a mess. When President Weah took over, I think there were attempts to even bring teachers from Nigeria to help the system. These are all, so this tells us that we all realize that there is a problem. And we have talked about the problem for some time now. Tonight, we want to see solutions. So the big question is, what do we do? Who is involved in this, and what can we do from different perspectives to innovate the classroom, to make it more exciting, and to get Liberia or the school system where it ought to be? When we advertised the show, we said, we say education is the bedrock. So if education is the bedrock, and Liberia as a country, if we don't prioritize education, then that rock is gone, and then where are we? So let me start with you again, Mr. Goya, on how we do this. What are the roles and responsibilities? Who's supposed to do what? Let's start from there.
So my thing is, I like to approach stuff from an engineering background, because that's my training. Now, there's a basic scientific stuff that says liquid take the shape of the container that they're in. If you think of our children as liquid, and you think of the system as the container, if we maintain the same container, you put whatever liquid, I don't care if it's water or if it's gasoline, it's going to take the shape of that container. What am I trying to say with the idea of even the issue of bringing the Nigerian teachers? You can bring master expert teachers, like my sister said. We got master expert teachers that teach in these schools that are labor filling schools, even in the US. As long as the system, the box that they're in, has not been repurposed, has not been reconditioned, has not been changed, you get what you built. So if we are consistently going to deal with the system as we have it, we're always going to have the same output. So now, look, education takes a village. It takes truly a village. It takes a village of educators. So that's the school, right? The teachers, administrators, support staff, those people. But then it also involves community. So community now is the parents and everybody else in the community. And then it involves the government. Government has to fund education and government has to regulate education. There is nowhere, I mean, at least in America that I know, that have full funding for education. Even in this US, I serve on my teachers union political platform. We are still fighting for full funding in the United States. I buy pencils and copybooks for 11th graders and 12th graders. I pay for food for kids to eat lunch. I bribe them with food just so they can learn in my classroom. But like my sister said, I treat that like a calling. So I see it as my offering that I'm giving to those kids. I get it. So in Liberia, we have to be intentional. For example, one of the things we can change, Mr. Ja, why do we take national exam, WAEC exam in 12th grade? Why? That is responsible for the lot of high school dropouts we got in Liberia. You take the test as a senior, when you fail it, then they expect you to come back after high school. More than half of the people don't go back to reset the WAEC unless they're trying to apply for DV. So what do you do to encourage people to graduate on time? You give them the national exam in 11th grade. Mm-hmm. So that when they fail it in 11th grade, they still have one more year in high school where they're still learning to retake that test. And those students who pass it in the 11th grade, in their 12th grade year, they can do job training, they can shadow professionals so they know where they want to go and they can apply for colleges and take the LU entrance or take all of the other university entrances. And if you fail it, while you're still a senior, you still have more time built in. Yes. You see, that's just simple. The other things we can do is, look, we need to stop asking kids in Liberia. 2 trains are leaving. One is leaving Chicago at noon. The other one is leaving Detroit at this time. When are they going to meet? When people in Liberia don't even know what Chicago or Detroit is, or don't even know what a train is. If I am in Lofa County, in Zolowo, Sosa District, Lofa County, and I've not seen a train, that just confuses me. Ask me about questions about my mom leaving the farm with her bag of pepper, bringing it to the market to sell. How much does she have to sell so that we can realize a profit of 1%? How much percent of profit we want to improve? Ask me those questions, and it captures me because I know I can go back to my village and teach my people. Mm-hmm. Ask me about the road on the farm where I have a hill and the hills are so steep, and you're asking about the slope of that hill. That is something I can go use. Ask me about trees that when I cut that got saps, and some of our saps are white, some of the saps are purple, some of the saps are blue. What are those used for? What is the reason for that? I can teach my people. That gets me. I've started watching wrestling, WWE. 8 years ago now. I know it's fake, but I started watching it because of one of my students. He came to math class, could not concentrate, did not like math, did not see anything about math that made sense to him. There's one day I see him with a WWE belt. And I said, "Oh, you into wrestling?" He said, "Yes." I started watching wrestling. I started to tell him when John Cena is on the ring post, and you are in the middle of the ring, and he's trying to frog splash from the other side of the ring towards you, we're splitting that ring into half. We're teaching Pythagoras' theorem. I'm telling you about the hypotenuse, how he's going to get to you. I got that kid on that. That kid went to school to become a math teacher because of that. We have to be able to teach relevant issues. Mm-hmm. We have to make the lessons relevant to the students we are teaching in Liberia. Stop teaching these things about 2 trains living in Detroit, 1 living in Chicago, and now at noon when they don't know what a train is or have never been to Chicago or Detroit.
Mr. Goya, let me tell you my own experience before you even end that thought. I entered University of Liberia in 1989, electrical engineering. Woo! By the time after the war, when I went back 92, the engineering fender was destroyed. So I decided, well, I can't do engineering anymore. I can do economics and math. So I went to this accounting class. And guess what I didn't understand in that accounting class? Mortgage. this person, because all this accounting 003 thing they were in about America. So mortgage, I couldn't get it. I could get rent, I could get lease, but I couldn't just wrap my mind around mortgage. What is it? Not even my professor could tell. Probably he knew, but there was just no way for me to understand it. So that what you just said really hit me, because I know this was a college guy, smart dentist job, man, sitting down, but I couldn't understand what mortgage is, and because of that, accounting up to today is so boring for me. That teacher couldn't explain it to me, and up to now, I don't like accounting. I don't like even to smell it. But let Roberta come in before you end your thought. Roberta.
I'm just sitting here listening to my brother, and I feel like it's like except he's in high school and I'm here, and because our experience, it just mirror each other. It's called cultural relevance. Yes. Because it is meeting these kids where they are. Kids learn by making connection to what you're teaching them. If they cannot apply it to their own life, it becomes very hard for them to comprehend and understand what you're saying. Just like you, when I started teaching kids in 7th grade that can't read, but what are they into? Wrestling and football. I mean, they have to teach me. Here's the deal. I will let you teach me about wrestling. I will watch wrestling. I will go to football games. If you can teach me about sports, you allow me to teach you to read. And that was the deal that got my kids reading, And when he talks about that, in Liberia, we take textbooks and we're teaching them about a world that some of them will never have the experience to go to. You can read, there's nothing wrong with reading that, but if you take the learning what you're teaching them and, rewrite the textbooks that apply to them, like my brother said. So number one, first of all, we got to get the community on board, because I always tell people the community have to speak, okay? They have to go out there and say, hey, listen, this is the type of school we want for our kids. We're not just going to settle for just anything, goes in the school system. They have to say what it is that they want. That's number one. Get all stakeholders involved. We're in a community. What about the superintendents or the different people, community that officials that were elected, senators from these different counties? They have, the senator, you're supposed to be the voice of the people. You have to be the voice of the people. And if they're willing to speak up and say, hey, this is what we need to do. Okay, I'm challenging, all of us, that are from some of the counties in Liberia who are in education. If we're saying, that's one of the things, I'm waiting for our kids to get a little older, where I can say in the summertime, let's go. I'm taking you. We're going to Liberia. Go to your county. Do teacher workshop, to educate, teachers, give them share some of the learning experience, share some of the things that you're doing in your classroom, do a summer camp for kids so they can come in, so they can see some of these innovative ideas that, we have acquired or learned that we're doing in our classrooms that are effective and working. If every educator can do that, I mean, imagine, and we come together and say, hey, we got to force the government to listen. We got to force the government to listen. But if we do not, we're not willing to do and speak up for our children in Liberia, if all stakeholders are not willing to get up and say enough is enough, we're not going to settle for this, and say and then, of course, teach cultural relevance, where our text and what we're teaching our kids, like he said, no, they shouldn't be in senior yet taking wait to pass. In America, they let them start taking in the 10th grade. or 11th grade, so at least they have time, to pass the test. But you give them at the end of their senior year. I mean, I've seen gotten some letters from kids who graduate from high school, and I'm like, my second grader here. I look at their work and some of the letters they sent me or text. I'm like, wow, and it's not their fault. And some of the teachers that are there, they're doing the best they can. They need, they're trying to help. But I think, we as stakeholders in the United States, we have to get involved. We have to get involved.
And so let's look at starting from Liberia, who all needs to do what? Let's say we talk about the community, we talk about the school, we talk about the government, and now you are bringing in another piece, which is those of us in the USA. We need to get it. What should each of these groups be doing to make our school system better?
Well, just like I just said, I think, in the various organizations that we have here, you have we think about the LOFA Association. We have one here in Georgia. We have one here, we have in various states. Well, when we meet for our national, if each individual chapter is doing something, sewing something, sending something back home to kind of help, we're doing something. And then when the national chapter comes together and we sit together and we make that our priority and elect leaders who really have the heart of the country, and really love their community, to say, you know what, this needs to be our priority. Because if this generation die out and they're not educated, then what? You think of some of our leaders that have come out of Liberia. Liberia is, the world used to look up to Liberia as far as in Africa. We have produced some great people. Look at my brother, sister, look at yourself. Some great educators, people that are a byproduct of Liberia. So we know that the means are there, and we know that the seed is there. Some of our family members, some of our ancestors, our parents, they risked a lot. They did everything they could, even though they didn't have the education, but they made sure we got the education. So now it's up to us as Liberians who are here to start putting our money where our mouth is. We can't sit and keep criticizing the government and keep criticizing everybody, but what are we willing to do? They say you will never leave where you are until you first decide where you'd rather be. So where do we want our educational system to be? And that's what we need to make the decision. And we have to come together, and we need to get people together, educators in Liberia who have a passion for the kids, not about making a profit or opening a school to make a profit in Liberia, but trying to get equality education for all children in Liberia. When that becomes our focus and that becomes our drive, then we will see some changes.
Thank you, Roberta. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are on our Innovative Solutions series. Tonight we are discussing the classroom. How do we innovate the classroom for better teaching and better learning outcomes? My guest, Mr. Cisse Goya, he teaches math in Minnesota, and Roberto Bombo Coleman teaches third grade in North Carolina. I don't know whether this was planned, but I got two LOFA people. It was not an intention. So we'll soon be opening our phone line so that you will join the discussion. I have some comments already coming in, and Musu Wanglo Stewart said this is good idea for Liberia, but it is far-fetched. I don't know which one specifically. I know Mr. Goya talked about the national exam being taken in 11th grade and things like that, but who knows. But Musu will come back and explain that. And to join the conversation, please call. The number is 605-313-6004. Put in the code 791-403. Mr. Goya, let's now we are rooting for LOFA. Go LOFA. Now let's go to the role and responsibility. We talk about, we talk about three areas, the school, the government, the community? What do we do?
So the first thing, Mr. Jai, you see, one of the things that hold us back in Liberia is this scarcity mindset, that things are scarce and they're not possible real fast. I remember as a child, we used to have schools where we used to close school in December, and I used to go to Lofa County for vacation. And one year, Chancellor just decided we're going to change the school year around. What happened? We changed it. Now they're set on the American system, right? We can change this thing to start taking tests in the 11th grade. That is not undoable. But here's the thing, to answer the question. I'm going to start with government. The system is set up right for government to be able to intervene, okay? We have this system where in Liberia, you have CEOs, which are the county educational officers. So they are like the Minister of Education in the county. You have these district educational officers who are over educational districts in the county. And then you got the principals, and then you got the teachers. So if the principals are overseeing the teachers and checking to ensure that teachers are doing their work and reporting on teachers and making sure that we are highlighting those teachers that are doing great jobs and we are getting help, getting master teachers like what my sister is doing right now, and going to those schools where we see teachers are not doing well. That is the work of the principal. The work of the district educational officer is to check all of the schools in the district, see which one of them are doing great by YX standard or by whatever testing standard we got in Liberia, looking at graduation rate, looking at student success rate, looking at likability and how many students drop out of school, looking at a lot of factors and saying these schools are great schools. And so we take those administrators, you do best practices. What are they doing to ensure that a lot of the kids are graduating on time, a lot of the kids are passing WIAC, the teachers are happy, the students are happy? Take that and go to the other schools where those things are not happening and try to replicate it, right? Try to have a mentorship. And then there's the county educational officer gets to oversee the district educational officers, ensuring that they are doing their job, and he or she is also assessing the district educational officers. Now at the Ministry of Education, all you got to do is to look at the reports from the various counties, see which schools are doing great, which counties are doing marvelous, highlighting those counties, which counties need more help, we're getting more help to those counties. It's basic, it's simple. We have DEOs, we have CEOs. So they just have to do their job. They have to be empowered, they have to be educated on how to do their job. Now, when you come down to the classroom, when principals or administrators hire teachers, they have to be aware of the ability of the teachers, their strengths and weaknesses. And they have to ensure that they have, here we call it professional development, but you have to ensure you have workshops where you are helping those teachers grow continuously. I've been teaching math, for the last 8 years now in the high school, even though I have graduate level education in mathematics and have a very good grasp of electrical engineering, I still go every year to teacher training workshop before I enter the classroom. And throughout the year, I'm still being trained consistently. We have to ensure that for our teachers. We have to make sure that people who don't belong in the classroom are not in the classroom.
Yes.
We need to ensure that teaching is a calling, like my sister rightfully said. Teachers have to be protectors and not predators. We have to remove the predators from the classroom and put protectors in the classroom.
Yes.
That is one of the biggest issues we got in Liberia, is we got predators in the classrooms. And there's a lot of great teachers doing great work protecting our kids. So I don't want to demean all of them. But the few that don't belong there have to be rooted out. But the problem, my brother Dennis, is that if a teacher is in Pittsfield Central High School and they commit something very terrible and they get fired, next time you see them, they're hired in Dupero because there's no tracking system.
Yep.
Right? The Press Union of Liberia issues a credential to press people, and they can revoke your credential to press people. How difficult it is to create a licensing system for teachers, so that when somebody hires you, you have a number, and we just have to check and see if you've been fired from somewhere else for doing something very, very abhorrent, and you don't have to be in the classroom. You don't need to be in the classroom. Mm-hmm. The next thing is, let's revamp our curriculum. Yep. Let's ensure that our curriculum represent us, Liberians. Let's have practical stuff about Liberia in our curriculum. We can have rigorous mathematics. We can have rigorous accounting, but let it be about what's happening in Liberia. So, for example, last time I was in Liberia talking to some guys who major in agriculture, and I was asking him about the tilapia population. We call it like Buka, right? I said the Buka population in Jalatan, right behind the University of Liberia. What time of year is the best time to go fishing, and what time of year is not the best time? How are they living along with the case meat population, the aquatic species? He said, what are you talking about? I said, those are the kind of studies you need to be doing. That's what people do here. That is relevant to our people. And you understand that? So now, outside of that, for me, the community has very limited role. We have a lot of single parents. We have a lot of people who can afford, and so they have to go out to sell all day or labor all day to make money to come and feed their kids. So it's really hard for us to put a lot on their plates. My sister and I know that. Even in this United States, we have parents who can afford, who just don't have it. So we have to step up. And that's the same thing with Liberia. But my biggest concern is with diaspora. You see, I am the national vice president for the Lo-Fi Association Federation. So kudos to us. We are helping to build a technical vocational teaching center in Liberia, in Lo-Fi County. And I've told people before, we can sit here on the internet and complain all day about what's not happening in Liberia. As long as we don't have a skin in the game, people discount what we got to say. That's why I've been going home to Liberia every year for the last 8 years. I go home, I do teacher training in the villages on my own dime, because I understand that if we're going to have a republic, if we're going to have an educated republic, we have to start with teaching our teachers how to teach our kids. And so for me, the question is, what diaspora Liberians need to do? I'm raising my hand. If anybody in the United States or in Liberia think that they can partner with me, I will pay my own way to go to Liberia. I will sit down at the Ministry of Education to rewrite curriculum, to write these things and processes and put them in place free of charge.
Yep.
We have to start doing that.
Yep. Yep. Well said. Well said. Well, you can count me in. You can count me in. Yes. Yes.
Now, go ahead, Roberta. No partnership forming. And then let's look at the teachers. You know, what I find is, I was living in Bannersville, so I'm familiar with Goodrich, and I have people going there. I mean, from the time I knew Goodrich, I don't know if it has ever been a good school. and so even now, things are worse. But looking at the teachers, and this is not an indictment of all Liberian teachers, because I know there are teachers doing incredible, amount of work in the country, sacrifice and all that. But sometimes it looks to me that they don't really care, because we are looking at the three groups that's supposed to support education: the community, the government, and also the school. So if one part is not functioning well, the teachers now give up and say, and they're doing whatever. What can teachers do? I'm not only talking about the sacrifice, but what can teachers do so as to make this thing? Because in Liberia, we need to have at least one bright, shining spot. It could be our school system. What can the teachers do about that?
You see,
I wanted Roberta to come in first before.
I was still on. I'm showing on the screen as well. So
when you think about what can teachers do, first I said start in your classroom. Start in your classroom. Make a difference in your classroom. Make your classroom an innovative classroom, because fire, it is just like fire. It will catch with other people. That's what I am. No matter what situation you put me in, I'm going to make my classroom a model classroom, and I'm going to show you that you can do this in your classroom as well. So you may not have a influence right now as per se in your community, but you do have influence in your classroom. Let the parents see what you're doing in your classroom. Let them see the difference you're making in the lives of their children. When they see those things, then they will rally behind you. and they will get other people. Prime example, I have a student in my classroom right now that recently her parents have pulled her out of the school system and said they were going to homeschool the child because they did not like what was happening in the school system in general. And the child came back this year, maybe 2 months, about 2 months ago. And the mother said to me, she said, I had taken my children out of school. She said, but my neighbor's daughter is in your classroom. And she was telling me what was happening in your classroom. And she was telling me what you were doing with the kids in the classroom. And she said, I told my husband, let's go and give this lady a try, and was hoping and praying that when we register our child, that she was going to get you, because the only reason why I'm bringing her back into the school system is because of the things that I'm hearing from my neighbor, what the child is saying, and what the parents are saying about what you're doing with their daughter, and how their child just love coming to school now, and the different things, how she's growing and whatnot. See, I didn't have to do everything for the whole school right now. I just focus on my classroom. So now that it's in my classroom, other people are seeing that. So I'm challenging other educators to do the same thing. So if we can just reach the kids in our classroom, and then begin the community or the parents to see, and the word will start to get out, other teachers say, wait a minute, I'm not going to let this lady leave me behind. Tell me what you are doing, and share ideas. We don't need to be so close in, like, I just want to be the best. No, it's not about you. It's about the children. So when you have ideas that's going to grow the school, that's going to grow the other kids in other classrooms, be willing to share those ideas. What's working in your classroom? What are you doing that's causing your kids to grow? And, and so as we begin to have those conversations and talk, and also have administrators who are open to new ideas. What worked 20 years ago is not going to work today. It's not. We cannot keep using the same old thing. That's what I said. What insanity is doing the same thing, thinking you're going to get a different result. So we got to get out of that mindset and that mentality. What teachers can do: start making a difference in your classroom.
There's this thing.
Bloom where you've been planted.
And Roberta, there's this thing about incentives, because the teachers don't have anything. Musu or Stewart said the teachers are challenged by the lack of benefits and salaries. Some have the passion, but also need to care for their needs as well. So in the midst of these stringent financial conditions, what can a teacher do?
I think it's just like you said to me. Did you go to North Carolina because you were making more? Actually, no, I took a cut in pay, about a $10,000 cut in pay to go to North Carolina. But what I realized is that, sometimes it's hard, and it's hard. You have, teachers who have been working, have not been paid for months, but yet they continue to go there, and we applaud those teachers. But this is where the people that elect these representatives, these people that speak for you on behalf of your county, this is where you got to start putting some fire behind them. We look at America, we look at the democratic system. People say, okay, I'm going to vote for you to represent me. Everybody will tell you, teachers have a voice. Right here, even in Georgia, when you look at election time, who are they going to rally behind? They're going to rally behind the educators, because they know the power that the educators have. Georgia educators, they just got a raise, teacher a pay raise this school year. Now the governor is pushing for another raise. Why? Because he knows the power of the teacher. And I think this is where, I understand they have to start putting some fire under their elected officials. They have to make people accountable. I'm voting for you to represent me. I need for you to speak for me. And we don't have people that speak for our educators in Liberia.
Mr. Goya, now I come back to you to complete your thought.
Well, let me pick up on where my sister ended. I am one of those teachers that are not afraid to tell other teachers to strike.
Yep.
But the problem is we have to stop having these accidental teachers. We need intentional educators. You can't end up in education by accident. then it doesn't matter how much incentive you get. You're not there for the reason.
Nope.
You're not there for it. The people who say, "Oh, I'm just teaching right now until I find somewhere to go," you're not cut for it. Those are the accidental teachers. You have to be intentional about the field, and you know everything that comes with the field, and you enter into it. And so for me, for example, West Virginia in the U.S., right? They had a strike. As a matter of fact, their students even went with them to strike. Their parents, right? Chicago had a strike. Even in my own state right now, like I said, I am a teacher, and because I'm a teacher, I'm a politician. I sit on my union board, my union organizing team. And we're looking at if we can get fully funding for education, because fully funding means that my students have access to guidance counselors, they have access to social workers, they have access to having more people in my classroom. If we don't have that for our students, we're going to strike. Right? So I do not have a problem with teachers in Liberia organizing themselves and asking for their fair share. They deserve it. It is owed them. There is no way around that. But we have to ensure that while we are asking for that, while we are demanding that we are ensuring that we are rooting out people who don't belong in the classroom. That's the biggest piece. Right? So for me, like my sister was saying, in America, since I've had my teaching job, my alarm has never woken me up. I always wake up before my alarm because I love what I do. I love what I do. Right now, we're in a transition at my school. We're doing construction, so we leased a place where we moved to. So I only have projectors. I'm teaching without projectors. But I'm still making it work. I'm still bringing my passion because I know that the projection being taken away is just one obstacle that I need to overstep. And I need to teach these kids that if I can teach them without a projector, they can do well. Right? So, but if you have teachers who are accidental, just the absence of a projector alone is enough for them to start complaining. Oh, I can't teach, I don't get this, I don't get that. It's not for what you don't have. It's about looking that one kid in the face and giving them hope. I will tell you for free, Mr. Ja, in my building, in my school district, when I tell a kid, say you're misbehaving and I'm going to get you off from my class, it is more threat than telling them I'll suspend you. They want to be in my classroom. That's how they fight for it. Kids fight to be in my classroom. I'm telling you, juniors and seniors, I will stand in the cafeteria and raise my hand, and I'm on the countdown. You see those kids running, coming to math class. They come because they come to enjoy it. They know, right now, I have a gangster math name or gangster rapper name because I do rap for math. They call me Black Pie. That's my gangster rap. We rap mathematics. Right? I'm rapping math. I sing by my song, by my librarian, by my song, with math in it.
Let's try that.
So let me do the gangster rap first. We'll do the perfect rap, right? Perfect, right? The perfect numbers are the 1, 4, 9, the perfect squares, right? So I'm teaching my kids perfect square. So I go 1, 4, 9, perfect. 16, 25, 36, rolling with my boys. 49, perfect. 64, 81, and our school is on Highway 100, so I roll with Highway 100, perfect. So we rolling, right? And you see the kids will be giving me beats. 1, 4, 9, perfect. 16, 25, 36, rolling with my boys. 49, perfect, right? So we own that, right? We're doing that. They're dancing, but they're learning the perfect squares. They're learning how to solve radical equations. You get that? They're learning that. Even when I teach my kids, and sometimes I get nasty with them, because so for example, I was teaching recently my kids about solving equations, 2-step equations or 3-step equations. I said, when you pick your booger for your nose, I say some of you pick your booger. You pick your booger, you look at it, you're looking around, that's the equation you got. You move, somebody can move their hair for it. You just remove one piece of that equation. So 2x plus 5 is equal to 7. Subtract the 5. Now you got 2x in your hand. What are you doing with it? Sometimes they separate it out. And I said, now when you do that, the last piece you get is your X. Or I tell them, you are sick. You can't sleep and your stomach hurts. You go to the doctor. That's a 2-step equation. You can't sleep plus 5. Your stomach hurts, 2x. What are they going to do for you? 2 medications. to take care of that. The first one is to take care of the sleep. They subtract 5. The next one is to take care of your stomach, divide by 2. So I'm teaching my kids that when you go to see your medical doctor, all they're doing is solving 2 3-step equations with you. We are making math simple to the point where the kids see it. They see their lives in it. That's what we need in Liberia. Yes. You bring that passion, and you're telling people about you go to FIAMA and you own a pimpin and how it works in math. The kids get it. The next time they see a pimpin rider, they know, oh, this is math. This is what. They know it. We don't have to tell these people about 2 trains living in Chicago, my brother. All it takes is to be intentional. Intentional. If my son, me and number 9, I can't listen me and number 9 how to handle. Now my son, I can use in my math class to teach them about the critical analysis of mathematics. I play that in my class.
Let's get a caller. Let's get a caller to join the discussion. Caller, you're live. Your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, my name is Shalvina, and I'm calling from Texas. Hello.
Welcome, Telco. Your comments or question?
It's a very long one, fully loaded. But first of all, I want to say thank you for the show, as always. Very informative topic. I want to say thank you to your guests tonight. Listen to them for at least an hour or close to an hour. And I take my heart out to them. It takes a special person to be a teacher. So I'm very proud of them. I see they're very passionate for what they do. And so I just want to say thank you to them. In a sense of full disclosure, I was trying to teach at a university. And one time I said, well, let me do on the other side substitute teaching to get some teaching experience so I can to at least for 6 months, so I can get a teaching job at a community college or university. Some few years back, and I went through the process and everything else. Like, I can't do this. No. So I really, in as much as I like learning and like training, this aspect, there's no way I could have done it. And so I take my heart out to them for dealing with our kids. I mean, my kids are in college now, but they had to walk through those doors, and people like this having to deal with to educate our kids. I'm grateful to you guys. So thank you. 2 questions for you guys. I listened to you guys talk about what you do, but I just want to, first question is just to tell us about your partnerships that you've made, some partnerships that you've done with parents over time or every day to help to make the kids successful. I didn't remember hearing that, so I just wanted you guys to address it individually. I know that's very key in making our children successful. So the next one, so I work for the state of Texas as Dennis, and but part of what I do is auditing and investigating school districts, charter schools, anybody that takes state and federal money. So taking those money and make sure that they're using it for the purposes intended. One thing that I do primarily is the special programs, like my sister was talking about children with special needs. So about 1,000 some more schools in the state of Texas, I watch all of that. So just making sure that the funds are used appropriately and for the purposes intended. And so I every time I look at, or when I go out to audit these funds, whether it's charter school or whatever it is, I often wonder, if our people are taking advantage of all this money and these resources, whether it be a special ed or gifted and talented or computer and technology program, all these special programs that are funded by state and federal government. And you see they're taking advantage of it. So my question there is, in your line of work, do you recommend these special programs to parents? Do you have those discussions even at your, dinner table or, in gatherings where you meet like rare people or, like I said, parents? So I just want to use 2 questions for you guys to just individually speak to. Then Dennis asked a question. I told you I have a lot tonight, Dennis. So Dennis asked a question, what can we do in Liberia? I must say, to better the education system. I know my brother and my sister, they touch on that. They, giving to give to have the test taken 11th and 12th grade, but I would say start sooner. You know, given our environment, given the challenges out there, I'd say start sooner. I'm not in education in no way, but I'll say start sooner. Start, you know, test once in elementary, at the end of elementary, test once at the end of middle school, and maybe repeat it. Maybe do it twice in middle school, I mean in high school, but start way early. I agree, not 12th grade. You know, the kids now have a lot to deal with, and again, the system is just not good. It's not like before when we were there, you know, what are 15, 20 years ago. It's not the same. And as far as making it better, there are a lot of challenges. I heard my brother talking about, you know, the curriculum and all that. These are good recommendations, but we have to look at the, you know, I like to do a root cause analysis. Just look at the bottom line of the problem. And the way I look at it, there much awareness needs to be done. We have to, we need to pay our teachers well. You know, that's the problem. Before we became adults, even when we were there 15, 20 years ago, there was a challenge for, you know, sex for grade. I remember even when I was on Rick's Institute, and then after the war, I couldn't go back, so I had to graduate in CWA. And I'm going to say this, I'm probably going to rustle from feathers, but even when in my senior year in College of West Africa, that was a challenge. We had teachers there that were doing sex for grade, you know, and so the people were not motivated to study and do those things. And then fast forward 3 about it after the war, and then I went to Zion Community College. I went to LU. It was the same challenge, and I'm talking about 15, 20 years ago. There was the same challenge. You had teachers in Zion College. I remember this particular guy used to teach economics and accounting, and you would pass, and he would always fail you because he wants to sleep with you or because he wants money. There were a couple of them, matter of fact, that were doing that, sex for grade or money for grade. So even, and for me, I was from a poor family, my mom poor, generation poor, and I didn't even have money to give. And even if I had to give, I liked education, so there was no way I would give anybody a dime, you know, even if I had it fill in the room. But it was challenging, and then for the people who didn't want to study, it was an easy thing for them to get those A's and B's when you were there studying and trying to pass. And then fast forward in LU, was the same thing. I saw that in LU for a year before I came to America. It was the same thing. So now, even after the war, it's even more challenging. So for me, my recommendation for fixing the problem is create a lot of awareness, you know, with the students, you know, just empowering them and letting them know that, you know, they can be successful with all sex for grade or money for grade, you know, put in the bathroom everywhere. Let it be an ongoing process. Pay the teachers well. And then also educate your teachers, you know, those ones that you see that are smart and have the desire to grow them, send them for a further education so that you don't have, you know, 1 or 2 persons teaching a course. I remember when I was in, I think it was LU, there was only this one guy that was teaching this senior level accounting. And because of that, he will take money. He would do all kinds of things just to fail people. You know, you will pass and still will fail you for sex or for grade and all of that because he was the only one, probably 1 or 2 people that were teaching that class. So they could set the pace for all kinds of stuff. So I think for me, those three recommendations first need to be addressed before we go to curriculum and all of that. Because you can fix the curriculum all you want. You can teach the people all you want. But if you don't fix those systemic problems, the curriculum means nothing. They're going to go outside of it. So that's just where I am. That's all for it. For me on this end.
Thank you, Tara. I'll let my guest respond, and then we can take the next caller.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm going to share briefly about what I do as far as with parents, you know, building a relationship with them. Work with the counseling department whenever, you know, you see children that are in need or you see a community of kids or that need, I work with the counseling department where we're able to start, go to an apartment complex. The kids do not have means to get to tutoring because the parents do not have transportation. So we were able to get, you know, partnership with one of the local community colleges in my area when I was here in Atlanta. And we went in the neighborhood, we went to the apartment complex, we talked to them, they allow us to set up a tutorial station for the kids here, where we got volunteers from some of the churches and whatnot that will come and we'll tutor the kids, we'll work with the kids and some teachers that, you know, give their time and will come and do that. And then while the kids were getting tutoring, the counseling department had a chance to do parenting classes with the parents, you know. And I remember one of those schools are telling their parents, you know, if y'all want to go to school, if you want to get another trade, we'll be willing to give you a scholarship to come to kind of, you know, so you can help your child. You know, those are some of the things that we did. Also, you know, looking and preparing the kids for end of grade testing, because the new way of, you know, the Common Core is here. And a lot of parents are not familiar with Common Core. They don't know Common Core. They don't understand Common Core. But, you know, they want their kids to be successful. So starting like tutorial programs on what we call Saturday school. We're able to, a partnership again, you know, I got some teachers, friends that volunteered at Saturdays for 3 hours. And we, you know, help those students in elementary, on the elementary level from, we did actually from 3rd grade to 6th grade, because they were the ones that were taking those tests, to come in on Saturdays to help them prepare for those intergrade assessments. What you were talking about, you know, what can we do, you know, what's happening in Liberia, is, you know, it's there, and we know that it's there. And sad to say, you know, that, you know, we're not really preparing them. Some of those teachers, and like some of those teachers are there, like my brother stated earlier, for convenience. It's not because they have a passion or they're called. And I think that's the first thing about, you know, making sure, number one, we prepare teachers to go in the classroom. And making sure that a teacher education program like here, you know, when you decide you want to be an educator, you take the class. Well, while you're in school, you on a job training. You do your internship first. Where you go, you just observe what's going on in the classroom. You know, you shadow that teacher for a little while. And then when you come to your student teaching, you have to do your student teaching, and you're graded. That teacher grades you on your performance, as well as, you know, your professors. You know, you got to do lesson plans. So when you leave, and that college is saying that, hey, when you graduate, we're saying that, you know, you have to take the test. You know, you have to take a licensure test, and they don't give you a license or they'll teach any grade. No, you're specific. What do you want to do? I had to go get a certification for special ed for me to teach special education. When it was time for me to do Gen Ed, I had to do the same thing, get those certifications, and do ESOL, the same thing. You know, all those things that are on my license. It was not like, oh, you get one license and you can just teach whoever you want to. No, it doesn't work that way, you know? So I think that's what we have to start doing in Liberia, you know, with, you know, holding our education, you know, these colleges that have education, a teacher prep program, we have to start holding them more accountable to make sure that they are truly preparing teachers to go in the classroom.
Yeah, well, you know, I like the questions. First thing for me as a teacher, my success as a teacher depends on the partnership I build with parents. I have about 35% or less time with the kids. So the remaining 60% plus, 65% plus of the time, they're spending it in community, either with their parents or wherever community happens to be outside of the classroom. And so if I'm going to be successful, if I'm going to reach their child, I have to make sure I'm in consistent and constant partnership with the parents. But I'm intentional about that. In Minnesota, where we have a lot of Liberian kids, the school I teach in, by the way, is like the front line for all the Liberian kids and all the Somali kids, all the African kids when they come from Africa. Most of them end up in my school. So I'm looking at a transcript that comes from, you know, a Sotema or another school is trying to see, because we'll just say math. They will not say, you know, algebra or geometry. I'm trying to interpret those things. And I'm seeing those kids come to me with gaps, massive gaps in education. Kids that come from really good public schools where their parents have paid thousands of US dollars in Liberia come to me with those gaps. And so I have made several home visits. I go to parents' homes during the weekend on my own time and sit with them and educate them on the American school system, what their rights and responsibilities are. And sometimes to just learn about their children, because parents know the most about their kids, and they will tell you what their kids' interests are. And one thing I learned is when you see a kid in their natural habitat, outside of school, in their parents' home, and you're not, because Mr. Goya, when I go to school with necktie every day, or I am dressed in my Lofakani attire. So when I don't have those things on and I'm having some shorts and jeans and they see me, they're like, oh, Mr. Goya, you wear jeans? Yeah, I wear jeans. So now we have that discussion like human beings, and I see them in there, and I get to learn a lot more about them and make those connections, right? But we're doing that every day, and it's not just even with the African population. I have a lot of kids who, you know, they are white, poor white, rich white. I still make those connections. I'm making phone calls home. So much so that we have now integrated a drone program in my class. I teach drones and math. Kids fly drones. A lot of these kids will never see what a drone is. We bring it out, we do programming, we fly it, we collect data, we analyze data. That's how we do. That's how I do when I reach into my community. I make sure at OLM tables, everywhere else, we're organizing these things. As a matter of fact, I just shared a video from about a few years ago when our local news, Fox News here, did a whole article about what we were doing. I will go to school and teach after school for free. And I found out that most of these kids cannot stay after school because they got home life. We started to go to apartment complexes, to their party rooms. And we were there teaching, tutoring for free. It didn't matter what school district they went in. It didn't matter what school they went to. I show up to apartment complexes and we're tutoring because that's how we form community. For me, I'm big in my Africanness. In Africa, it takes a village. And I will try every time to build that village. The next thing to talk about is the, gifted and talented. I'm always pushing my community to go for those gifted and talented stuff. I teach during the summer at a community college. I teach upper bound programs for students who are first generation. Been doing that the last 6 years now. I Hennepin Tech. I do that every summer. That's my way of giving back. Getting these kids who will otherwise not have access to a culturally relevant pedagogy from an African, teaching them at a community college during the summer, right? And telling them, like so much so that right now in my school district, ACT6 is a program that pays 100% tuition for students to private schools. We've been having our kids going to ACT6, winning ACT6 scholarships, right? I've had at least 5 students now win ACT6 scholarship, free tuition to private universities. So gifted and talented, yes, we've been telling our folks to look into that. But one of the things also, gifted and talented is a continuum. At the other end of it is kids who excel really well. At the other end of it is kids who need extra help to excel. And in our community, we've come to demonize or stigmatize special education. And so when those services are offered, and there's a lot of politics around it, there are sometimes our kids are misunderstood and they're put in special ed services, but sometimes genuinely there are kids that need that special ed service or services. But because we've demonized them and we stigmatize them in our community, parents will refuse it. Yeah. And they will see their kids struggling. Like you see some kids crying, they need the extra help. But the parent is saying no because that has been stigmatized. And I have been teaching parents that this is not anything to say your child is crazy. There is no such thing as a crazy child. Your child learns in a different way. Yes. We just need the help to teach them to learn the way they learn, to teach according to the way they learn. So my sister, I didn't want to talk about, the whole librarian thing. That's why I keep saying accidental teachers. But I know I went to school in Liberia. By the way, I went to CWA also. But we all saw that in Liberia, if you are a beautiful woman, don't go to school. Because most of the teachers want to stay with you. If you got money, don't go to school. I was a broke man. And I know what I went through as a broke man with teachers, right, trying to get you to give them stuff. That's why I said we have to get out those people who are accidental educators, those people who are predators instead of protectors. We got to get them out of the classroom. There are some teachers who do marvelous work. I became a mathematician because of my math teacher in high school. He inspired me. That's how I became a mathematician. And those people are staying in Liberia.
Okay. Thank you. We have another caller on the line. Let me bring in this caller. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Hello, my name is Musa Stewart, and I'm calling from Germantown, Maryland.
Musa, we appreciate you. You've been following us. We are glad that you call in so that this is our way to say thank you for your support to focus on Liberia. Now, what you got?
Thank you. And first of all, I'd like to say thanks to the panelists out there. I mean, this topic is very, very interesting, and it's one that I've always talked about in my network and my community. But I'd like to stay on point and just look at the problem that is being discussed from my perspective. and maybe offer a solution as I see it, based on us being in the diaspora and what we can do to help with quality education in Liberia. So based on everything that has been said, I mean, we've said it all, everything has been said. But the problem comes down to three things that the government is unable to do. And I see that the government has neither the will, the interest, or the money to support quality education in Liberia. And until those three things are addressed, I don't see us making any progress from a government perspective. But then if you look at us in the diaspora, we've done a lot to help Liberia. We've sent lots of money back home. We support our families back home. And the other day, as we were discussing this topic within my network, I said, why don't we start where we are? Why don't we start to help teachers or support the quality of education in Liberia from where we are? I believe that we necessarily don't have to go to Liberia to start to help teachers improve the quality of their skills. We live in the 21st century. We can create webinars. We can start a pilot project where we can evaluate teachers. We can have teachers come on board. We do selection of teachers that will qualify for the first phase of a pilot program, where we can begin to have webinars. We have a model program where we can say, okay, we use these 3 schools or these 5 schools. Teachers from these schools will enter our program. We'll teach the teachers. We'll have seminars for them because we want to start somewhere and then go from there. So in the diaspora, I think we have access to a lot of technology and tools that we can use to begin to support our teachers in Liberia. I will tell you one thing. I was in Liberia during the Civil War. I never left. And during that time, I was surrounded by kids who sat there crying all day, not being able to go to school. I decided to wake up every morning and provide basic teaching to those kids. It takes nothing when you have that will, the interest, and the passion to help people. So we can begin to do this in the diaspora. We can meet as a group, whichever group wants to start. We can begin to look at online platforms where we can begin to have webinars for our teachers in Liberia. And we admit there are teachers who have the passion, but they cannot work in isolation of benefits. Those people have kids who also go to schools and the teachers are requiring tuition. So what do we do to help these teachers? If we say we're going to have the webinar, it might not be enough to teach them. It comes back to, okay, you've taught me all these good things. How can I get paid? This is where all of our brain work comes in to set up a fund to kick off this pilot program. If you start a pilot program that is effective, believe me, the government will begin to take interest because I see this government as being a wait-and-see government. So it will begin to start a pilot project where we are training teachers like how KRTTI used to be the Teachers Training Institute. We need to look at those things again. But the model that we use now will be something that is, relevant to the 21st century. We can put in the funds and begin to help our teachers through a model program. So that's what I want to contribute today. So we have all of our experience and expertise, but let's look at the bread and butter issues. You teach them, you will have to give them a little bit of incentive. Then you begin to engage the government. We're doing this thing, government. We've trained, we've had seminars for 100 teachers. They're doing well. How can you come in? We want to partner with you to help our teachers. I think it will help us. The government will begin to see us in the new light. And until we do that, the will, the interest, and the money will not be available. So we have to do something from our end.
And Musu, before I let you go, what's about this problem? Someone will tell you, well, if you train those teachers now, even have money for them to even come to the States on some program to even advance themselves, the next time you hear about them now, they're running for representative or senator.
Well, that's why I say we start a pilot where we hold them accountable also. We can sign contracts with them. I mean, you didn't expect them to be honest, but we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Because if we begin to think about what they will not do or what they could do to spoil the program, then we're not going to make any leadway. So we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's put our money where our mouths are. Let's bite the bullet and say, let's give it a try. Going to Liberia and building a school is good, but it's not really what we need now. We need to train we need to train people to provide quality education to the students. We are crying, teachers are corrupt, they're asking for, sex for grades and all of those things. All of those things happened before. But what can we do to change this thing? What can we do to bring quality education to Liberia? Let's start from where we are. That's what I'm proposing. And I don't think it's impossible. We can start up a pilot program.
Thank you. No, me neither. I don't think it's impossible. But before you go, and I don't want to be political, the problem you see and how government will come in, do you think is something with this government, or that has been the pattern that we try to do something but the government is not interested?
I think, in my opinion, it's something that has to do with this government. And they don't have the money. That's what I see. They don't have the money, but then the interest is not there, because if the interest is there, what you really want to do, you will find the money to do. If education is priority, the government will find the money. And I don't want to be political as well, but I just believe that the interest is not there. In the past, parents could afford to send their kids to school. Salaries were current. So the parents would afford to send their kids to whatever school they wanted to send their kids to as their salaries could afford. But with this government, my opinion is that they don't have the money, or they don't have the interest, and the will is lacking. So in the diaspora, we can put our hands together, put our ideas together, give the teachers the benefit of the doubt. Even if we think they will rob us, let us give it a try. A lot of NGOs have gone to do things in Liberia, and nothing is working. So a pilot might be the best way to start. We can raise funds to get it done.
Thank you. Mr. Goya, brilliant idea from Musu. But these are not some of the things that we in the diaspora will raise money for. There's no GoFundMe for FOL yet, and I think we are doing incredibly well. But these are not the things that excite us to pool our resources together and support.
Well, whenever you're ready for your GoFundMe, let me know. We're happy with your FOL GoFundMe. But look, I like my sister passion. Abusu, she hit a lot of stuff on the head. Look, by the way, Dennis, I'm also one of those teachers who happen to be a politician, but I'm staying in the classroom, just so you know. So teachers, we can multitask. But the will, the intent, and the money. See, I'm one of those people who believe that your budget reflect your morality. Budgets are moral documents. What you value, you place on a higher level on your budget. If we value education, like my sister Musa said, we'll find the money for it. If we truly value education, we'll find the money for it. And I don't want to put this blame on any one government's doorstep, because for a very long time, we had a dysfunctional system that we call an educational system in Liberia. I am a product of that. So this has been going on way before this time. There are a lot of other things that this government has added to exacerbate the issue. I'm not going to go into that. But I think structurally, if we don't change the structure and start making this thing work for our students and for our people, we end up with a situation where we always sit in the diaspora and complain, and say, well, these kids voted for this government, they should have known better. Well, we didn't teach them critical analytic civics. We didn't give them the skill to analyze stuff, and so they're working with the tools we give them. We give them teachers that were not trained, so those teachers only taught them what they know. So, for example, I used to laugh at one of my cousins. Actually, he's like an uncle. He was teaching at the University of Liberia. He had just graduated with his bachelor's, and they hired him to teach at the university. And I used to tell him, dude, you should not be teaching at a university. You just graduated with an electrical engineering degree, and they hire you to teach math at a university. That is not fair to those students that you are teaching, because you're only teaching what you know. The homework problem in the book that you knew, that the one you were assigning. The ones you didn't know, and they ask you a question about it, you get mad, you kick them out. Or you make the test so difficult so that they don't ask you a question, because, in Liberia, the teacher who fails a lot of students is a badge of honor, right? My man, you taking that math class? My man, when the 4 people passed out their class last man, I cannot easy. That is not a badge of honor, but we've made it into that. Do you understand that? So this thing has to be an issue. Like I said, government bears the most brunt of this thing. We already have the system set up. We have CEOs, county educational officers, that are supposed to oversee the county. We have districts. We got district educational officers also that are hired. We got these principals. Let's empower them. Let's train them to do their work. Because when you have that level of accountability all the way to the Ministry of Education, why should I have to leave Lofa County to come to Monrovia to go to school just to be able to excel or to have access to quality education? Are we even comparing schools to say people in Grand Gila County, the students, how do they compare to the students in Brown County? How do they compare to the students in Roji? How do they compare to the students in other places or in Monrovia? No, we don't. And so at the end of the day, if you want your child to succeed and you don't have the money, what they have to do is to leave the towns to go to the cities. Even in Lofa County, folks have to leave their smaller towns to go to Zosa or go to Vonjama, right? That is not right, but that's what we got. But the government has to be able to work within the system that we have to ensure that it doesn't matter what part of the country you are, that we are giving you access to quality education and quality teachers, and teachers are trained. I like the idea about KRTTI. KRTTI, ZRTTI were all teacher training places. KRTTI has been closed for a long time now, right? And so we are getting people who go to LU, and because they're in LU, people hire them. So somebody is majoring English at the University of Liberia, and the high school hires him or her to teach math, simply because they're in LU, right? Which is not right. So there's a lot of things my sister talked about that we can change, webinars and stuff, yeah. But if you are a teacher somewhere in Bapolu, how much megabytes do you have on your phone to do webinar, right? So we know these things work, but we just have to be able to look, government has to step up, community have to step up, schools have to step up. Well, all of these schools and community answer to the government in Liberia. So the government has to take the lead.
If you're just joining us, we are almost at our closing point. We've been discussing innovating the classroom. How do we get our school system working again? Or how do we get better outcomes through innovation? My guest, Mr. Cisse Goya, a math teacher in Minnesota, and Mrs. Roberta Coleman, a third grade teacher in North Carolina. Now, and we have and I want to appreciate all of you because you are all in the hotel, because teachers, that's what you do. Always training, going to workshop and doing all kinds of things. So we really, really appreciate your time. I will like you to give your closing remarks as we wrap this up. And anything that we didn't cover that you want to bring up, please do. Let me start with Roberta.
Just thank you for having me on this forum, and thank to all the viewers who are there listening. I know that if you're on this, if you're watching this, or you're taking the time to call in or comment, that means you have Liberia on your heart. And as a whole, I'm hoping that this forum will open up many more discussions that we can have. And like my sister said, she gave a wonderful idea of us coming together. My brother has said, hey, I'm willing to start something to get some volunteers, educators who are in education here in America, who are making a difference in their communities and in their classrooms. I'm appealing to you to kind of get in touch with our brother, Goya, and try to let's see what we can all do together. And like my sister said, we can start with one thing. I put our heads together and see what we can do, as he's going to Liberia every year and doing something in Lofa County, and if we can just keep these conversations going in our various organizations. And even though because we have to say, I always tell people what I do in my classroom, impacts my grade level. What my grade level does impacts the school. What my school does impacts the district. It's the same thing. We have to go. What we are doing in our various community is going to impact Liberia. So as we continue to, not only talk about education, but begin to really say, what are we doing? Because people say, put your money where your mouth is. And that's what we have to do. We can talk all day, but until they see us doing things. But then also we have to appeal to our people in Liberia. I know some of us have been here, and sometimes when we come, they've had bad experiences where they've seen people come to Liberia, they want to, they look down on them, or, the government is giving their jobs to people who have been overseas and whatnot. However, some of us are really genuinely coming home because we want to help. We're not there to make money off the people. We're not there to build schools that all children cannot go to, but some people genuinely want to help. So even though we're doing everything that we can do here, you got to be able to receive what we're doing when we come. You have to receive us and, know that we are here to work for all of us. We're not just there because we're trying to prove something or we want something from you. Yeah, we do want something for you. We want you to be your best. We want you to do your best. And we want you to be compensated for what you do. But in order for that to happen, there has to be a collaboration and there has to be a partnership, not only with educators here, but also with the educators in Liberia. So thank you.
And Roberta, sorry, I'll come back to you again because we have a few comments that I want to read. And Musu is still on the line. Musu is writing. So Musu, if you have any additional comment you want to make or clarification, please do that. While you think about that, let me read a few comments. Dave Jassy, what are your thoughts about a uniformed national curriculum in Liberia? And what about the nationwide teachers training team that can travel across the nation to train folks? Then Musu said, Musu was talking, I was not talking about setting up a GoFundMe. I'm referring to a valid organization that raises money for a cause. And she also said, we will fund the data service for teachers who meet our criteria to participate in the pilot program. So, Musu, is there anything you want to add before we let you go?
Dennis, thank you again. I just wrote what I wanted to add, that we can't give up on Liberia. No. And in as much as we're here, the quality of life is good, but we also think about one day being able to contribute to Liberia. We went to school in Liberia during the times when things were good. And we see what's happening in there. We know the government is not doing its best, but before we can hold their feet to the fire, let's do something and show them tangible results. We can use the KRTTI as a platform to launch a pilot program. We don't have to start a whole new program in Liberia. We can use the KRTTI, it is still existing, but we just can't give up. We have the ability to come together and raise money for a cause. If we believe in education, and I do, I think we should put our money where our mouths are. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, this idea about a unified curriculum, and instead of even having a KRTTI alone, we can even have a team that can go across, go to Dudwicken, go to Duka Free, go to Soboromo in Lofa and teach.
Yeah, so that person I talked about a unified curriculum and a team of educators, trainers of trainers going around and training teachers. It's the same thing I keep talking about when I talked about the idea of having master teachers, like my sister just did, moving to the Carolinas, right? She's going into schools that are considered failing, and she's there helping staff to help our kids. It's the same thing I'm talking about, right? So you go down and we start to access these districts in the counties and assess the counties, see which districts are doing poorly, which districts are doing great, find out what those great districts are doing, get those staff members from that. You see, instead of having somebody come from Lofa County, go all the way to Kawia County, go train, you can have somebody from the same county, from another district that is doing great work. You save money that way, and they can come down and teach those other schools that are failing. Right? And so at the level even of the county, if there's a county not doing so well and there's another county doing well, you get the CEO, the county educational officer of the county that's doing well, to become a mentor to the other CEO. We don't fire that person, but we give them a mentor to help them. What are you doing well in your county? Help this other CEO to implement it in his or her county. You see, when we do that, then we ensure that we're living unified. But why would we have so many different outcomes from different parts of the countries, as if we're living in two different worlds, right? In Monrovia, the outcomes are different. If you go to Tubman-Breda, the outcomes are different. If you go to Zoso, the outcomes are different. If you go to Banga, the outcomes are different. We are not telling people why or what accounts for this variation in output from our students. And that's what we need to be looking at. You know, and my sister, I like my sister Musu so much. We can raise money for what we believe in. I've seen Liberian people do that before. I've seen Liberians raise money for what they believe in. And if we truly believe in education, if we believe that our shared future rely on the availability and accessibility of quality education to our young people, we can raise the money and fund it. But my thing is, for now, we have to start pushing people. I like the idea of community organizations. You see, Lofa County in the diaspora, we have a $75,000 project. We're raising money to build a technical vocational school. I'm thinking about in the next 2 years to take a sabbatical. I'm going to go down to Zolowo, where we don't have cars coming out about once a week. That's where I'm going to be teaching for 1 year, teaching math at the school there, the middle school. That's my plan, because we have to start somewhere. You know, so I'm talking about EULA. I'm talking about Colossus. I'm talking about all of the various organizations that we have in the United States. We have to see this as an issue. Like my sister Mutu said, let's try to take the lead on it.
Now your closing comments.
Well, Mr. Jai, you know, you and I go way back, so I'm not going to, you know, waste all of the compliments on you that I know you deserve, because we see the work. But I am so excited. Look, I should have been at a workshop a long time already. I spent that here because I realized that this is community.
Yes.
Community needed me. And so we can sit there, we have the conversation. But for you to use your platform for that, to elevate other things in our community, to highlight those things, my brother, my heart's out to you. These are the kind of things we're looking for. And like I said earlier, and I'm going to say it again, I have offered to many governments to help. I don't want a job. Let me repeat that. I do not want a job. I am a tenured teacher. I am tenured. I have been head of my math department for the last 5 years. I don't want a job. I got a job I'm happy with. What I'm offering is to take summer that I have off to go to Liberia and take a month to help out.
Yes.
Okay? Helping out. That is all I'm offering. I don't want a job. So people need to understand that. The other piece is that, look, if there are people in Liberia, which I know they are watching Focus on Liberia, and you are an educator, let me tell you, thank you for the work that you do. Mm-hmm. Nobody can pay you on this earth for the work that you do. Nobody, not even us in America as teachers, we still go without. Your greatest pay is going to be when you see that student who has graduated, see you in the street and run and hug you so tight that they can't let go. That is your blessing on this earth. But what we have to do is to ensure that we know our place in society. As educators, we are trusted with the lives of our nation. We have to be protectors. If you work with people who enter education for other reasons, you need to talk to them either to leave education or you mentor them in changing their mindset. Mm-hmm. Our children are our Jews. They are the future of our nation and they are the future of our ancestry. I don't want to go extinct. I want Liberians to be around after we leave. Yes. And so teachers are the one that perpetuate that. And so I know you work for nothing. I'm not here trying to blame you. Teachers in Liberia and teachers everywhere work for nothing. It's a thankless job. So my heart's out to you. Government of Liberia has to do better. You have to do better by our educators. You have to pay these people. You have to give them their allowances. You have to give them stipend. What does it even cost to give a teacher a $5 scratch card every month so they can call parents? Try that. $5 scratch card, each teacher, every month. Put it on their phone and say, call 2 parents and say, look, I'm calling you about your child. And see how they'll boost the morale of the teachers, of the students, and of the parents. Just try that. So we have to be intentional. For me, I always say this. I am blessed to be in this great United States, not because of anything I did, but because I think somehow, somewhere, God in his infinite wisdom saw that a blessing of mine would be a blessing to other people. So I am here to multiply my blessings. So use me. I don't want people trying to find me, how to get me. Dennis Jah is a good friend. He knows me. We've talked on these issues before. We almost started something about this. Reach out to him. If you need my support, you need my help in starting anything, reach out to Dennis Jah, reach out to Focus on Africa. He can reach out to me. We can get together. But it's about time we stop talking and start acting. Thank you, my brother.
And Musu say, when you're ready to go to Zulu, you should let her know. You can't leave her behind.
Okay, Musu, we got one. We recruited one.
Well, again, like my brother just said, thank you all so much. Dennis, you're doing a wonderful job. And I think is great that by any means that Sis Musu, I applaud you for the work that you're trying to do and the work that you are doing in your community. So you're making a difference, and you're making, you're crying out for the children. Somebody's speaking up for them. So it's a wonderful thing. And all I can say is that I applaud my brother today as well. And I thank each and every one of you all for even taking the time out to even watch this program and call in or even make comments about what is happening. If we continue to speak out and become a voice for the voiceless, and let's not forget, and we have to, thank God for our parents. Some of our parents, they did the best they could. They themselves didn't have it, but they did everything they could to sacrifice, just like their parents in Liberia right now, sacrificing and making sure their child get an education because they want something more and something better for their children. So I think, we were saying that our teachers in Liberia, we encourage you, we've put it out here, reach out to Focus on Liberia. I mean, we can do whatever we can start something. We never know. They say you might not reach 1 million people, but you might just reach the one who have reached 1 million. So that we're hoping that one of you, through your commitment to want to say, I want to grow, I want to do better, I want to bloom where I've been planted. If you reach out to us and see what we can do to try to work with you, we may not be able to reach everybody in Liberia, but through you and through your students, we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Isaac C. Lakwa Zaulo was going to be here tonight, but he had a death in his family, so he couldn't join us. Isaac, we want to say our prayers with you. And I want to thank you, professional teachers, for honoring our invitation tonight. Our viewers love it. They love you. They want you to come back. People are volunteering. So let's do this again. Tonight was just the introduction. We're going to go in depth a little more. And even we want to talk about our school here. We as parents, what do we need to do? Because we send these kids to school and we never look back. We are busy working, doing our double, to keep the roof over our heads, so we don't sometimes even attend the parents-teachers meeting, let alone going out to find out about your kids to see what we do. All we do is we sometimes pay for the lunch money, and when they come home, we don't even check the bag. So what do we need to do as parents here? How are our kids doing? So I want to invite you back anytime you are available so that we can talk more about what we can do here in America. And we want to thank all our viewers tonight, even those that are going to watch later. Continue to support us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel that's Focus on Liberia. Here at Focus on Liberia, we educate, we elevate, and we promote all things Liberia. This is self-funded. We are not asking for your money, but we are asking for your support. Continue to watch us. Continue to share the video. Continue to tell somebody. Let's build a big network. All the programs we have here, they are on YouTube. Look into that and give us a call. Maybe you want to link with some of our panelists so that we can all work together and do something. We all went to school in Liberia. At a time, things were better than what they are now, and we know the kind of education we got. And at this time, things are bad, and as most of you said, we cannot turn our back. We need to do something. Most of the folks are approaching these things from a political standpoint because you see the suffering, you see the need, and you want to do something right away or even like yesterday. So there are different approaches, but still, we can do the little things so that even if everything else is bad in Liberia, we can have one bright, shining spot. Like Cuba. At the time Cuba was under the 50 more years embargo, they were training doctors from all over the world. You know, you could go to Cuba and you learn to be a medical doctor for little or nothing. Liberia, in spite of our problem, we can be that or educational spot that people go there and get education from Liberia. We can do that. And if education goes well, everything else goes well. I want to thank you guys for coming. On behalf of all of us here at Focus on Liberia, I want to say thank you to you, our guests. I want to say thanks to our viewers. Until then, my name is Dennis Jah, wishing you all a good and godly night.